Hey there lads and ladies, it is Petrifying Pumpkins here, and today we are going to take a closer look at the brand new Firewall Zero Hour stream that was streamed by the Sony Japan team. So get ready for some juicy new details about everyone's most anticipated PSVR shooter. However, before I begin, I would like to dish out a bit of thanks and gratitude and all that shite to both Kiwi_MT and Decepticon. Both of these guys hit me up within 24 hours of each other and they sent me original music that they created themselves just for this channel, and I like both of those tracks, so I'll be using both of them if they don't mind. So again, big thanks to those two boys, and for a more broader thanks, I'd like to thank all of you watching because we have recently passed the 600 subscriber milestone, which is very fucking cool, so thanks. Okay, now that that mushy shite is out of the way, let's dig into the analysis. So there are a couple of things you should be aware of before we go any further. The first thing is that this is nearly all in Japanese. The commentary from these guys is entirely in Japanese and most of the in-game text is in Japanese. And I'm not going to bother trying to translate that shite because then this video would just never get finished. However, not all of it is in Japanese. The next thing to know is that they appeared to mess up their setup for Firewall. They had at least 4 maybe people playing together. However, they appear to be sitting way too close together, and because the PSVR uses light-based tracking, that's a fairly disastrous move because I'm fairly sure some of those cameras must have been picking up light sources from the other headsets and controllers, which may have impacted gameplay. Another thing to know is that they seem to have some trouble just to get the game set up, to get everyone in the lobby in the beginning. Although, thanks to this, we do get a really long look at the loadout lobby area and we get some juicy details there. Okay, disclaimers out of the way, let's begin. So the very first frame of gameplay we see here actually gives us a lot of new details. We see everyone in the lobby area of the game, which once again appears to be from the Shoot House map. Now they don't actually play the Shoot House map in this stream, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that the lobby will always take place in the Shoot House map, no matter what map it is that you will actually be playing on, because anytime we've seen the lobby, it's been the Shoot House map. This makes sense lore wise. I don't know if lore is the correct word here, but as a shoot house is like a training area in real life for these like military dudes, so it kind of makes sense that you would prepare for a mission in this area. Not that it really matters. Anyway, if we look at the top of the menu here, we can see the list of players that have currently joined the lobby. It's currently at 5 players, but more people join later on. To the right of that, we can see the player information, including the username, as well as the player's current level. Right now, we can see he's at level 1. Beneath that, slightly, we can see a level progress bar that shows you how close you are to hitting your next level. And then on the right over here, we can see how much currency the player currently has. Now this currency will be known as crypto in the game, and you'll be using it to purchase unlocks if you meet the level requirement for the unlock at least. If we move down a bit to the main meat and potatoes of the menu, as it were, we can see that there is a map selector, or at least a map preview window over here, which shows you the currently selected map. And then over on the right, we can see some details relating to the currently selected operator. Now we can see here that the currently selected operator is the Australian dude called Skip. This guy seems to get the most airtime, but for the first time we get to see what his unique skill is. For some reason this part is in English, I don't know why, but I won't complain. So his skill is called Loaded, and it allows him to carry extra ammunition for both his primary and secondary weapons. So that's nice to finally know. And if we take a good look at Skip here, we can see that he's got some custom gear on. His uniform has a bright green or yellow pattern, and then his assault rifle has got this kind of cool desert camouflage looking pattern on it. So just a bit of cosmetic customization on show there. Nothing huge, nothing important, just nice to point out. Now over here we see a couple of dudes, but I'm not too sure if that is the enemy team. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is just like AI dudes chilling out in the background, set dressing essentially. don't worry about those guys, they don't matter. Over on the left then, there is some red text here that I can't really make out. Now the stream quality was 720p, and this is streamed from the social screen output, and then I downloaded it again, so there's lots of compression going on, so it's not exactly crystal clear, but if you guys can read it, then let me know what that says in the comments below. So next he goes back to the character selection screen again. Now we've seen this in the past, but we get a better look here. Plus he highlights more of the operators here than we've seen before, and we can see the country names beside them when he does. We see this lady here in the second row is apparently from Japan, as noted by the JPN beside her name, and I think it's safe to say there are a total of 4 female operators here, because I think the one in the very bottom right is actually a female as well. Next he highlights the bearded man beneath the Japanese operator to reveal that he is a German operator, before dropping to the bottom row where we see this bald dude here who appears to be Norwegian, based on the NOR beside his name. He quickly sweeps over to the guy in the middle bottom who is another USA operator, and then moves over to the very last operator who appears to be a African lady. Now beside her name the letters CAF appear. I looked that up and the closest thing I got that made sense was Central African Republic. Now that could be very wrong, but for now I'm going to go with that. He moves over a bunch more that we already have seen and talked about in the past, and then he lands on the very first guy again. This guy, we talked about him before. He has the 3 letters beside his name, AGO. I thought he was African before, but I couldn't make out those letters until now, and now I believe he is Angolian, based on the AGO. And with that we have our full list of operators and their countries of origins. The only thing we don't know is their names, because they're all written in Japanese for some reason. The countries are not. The next interesting thing we see is when he selects the female Japanese operator, and we get a good look at her in the flesh, but we also get to see her skill, which is called Ninja, and it gives her reduced movement noise compared to everybody else, so if you see her on the enemy team, be extra careful of that. He goes back to skip again, and then we see the loadout screen. Now we've seen this before, I've covered this in the past video, so I don't want to go over the same details again, so we'll move on. Skipping forward a bit, we get to this interesting part here where we see the guy in real life kind of demonstrating how skip will mimic his movements in the loadout menu, so you can see what you look like in the third person view in this menu. We also see that as he raises his aim controller, that there is a 3D modeled replica of the aim controller in this game, and you will see it when you're using these menus. We can also see here that the currently selected map has changed. It was on that social media office map, and now it has changed to the server room map, which takes place in some underground location. As these guys set up, you can see what I mean here about them being too close to each other. I mean, I could be wrong, but that looks way too close for comfort for me. Plus they're all sitting down instead of standing up like a bunch of filthy casuals. Now if you plan on playing this game sitting down, then you unsubscribe from this channel right now. I don't need your kind around here. So I'll skip forward here to when the teammates finally join, and you can see them pop up on the left over here, and they're kind of jerking around in a strange way with their hands and shit like that. I think that's because of their setup. I hope so anyway. Oddly enough, no weapons are appearing in their hands just yet. I don't know if they've yet to load in, or maybe they haven't selected them yet and that's why they won't appear, but we'll talk about that a bit more later on. So while this guy's tracking is going a bit mental, it cuts over to another perspective that seems more stable, and we get to see a new skill because of it. I don't see what operator this skill is tied to just yet, because they don't seem to be appearing for whatever reason, but the skill itself is called Wired, and it makes enemy traps visible at a greater distance. Now in the past we've seen enemy traps with a red outline around them, so it sounds like that red outline will appear at a greater distance if you have this operator selected. As the technical issues continue, we see the invite system in operation. It's nothing fancy. It seems to require that you go to the PS4 menu instead of having like its own built-in friend list, but that's no biggie, as they say on the streets. So they finally sort out their shit and we see the map begin to load. One thing to note here is that the loading screen will have tips on them. This one tells us that if we fire a non-suppressed weapon, our position will be revealed on enemy wrist tablets. So that's good to know. Right away, you've got a good reason to pick a suppressed weapon. I imagine if you want to play stealthy, you'll want to be the Japanese operator with a suppressed weapon for maximum stealthiness. So the loading time here was okay, I thought. It wasn't very quick, but it wasn't too long either. It took around 24 seconds before gameplay popped up on the screen again. As we begin, we see there is a warning sign that floats behind you telling you to face the camera if you accidentally get turned around, which is nice. Now, unfortunately, they played with click turning in this demo, but you should know by now that this game will have smooth turning, so don't freak out about that. Also, the first thing that struck me about the gameplay here is just how nice the environments look. Like these rocks on the wall in particular look really nice, as does the walls further on ahead in this compound area here. They've got like chipped paint. There's some really nice details that you would overlook in a flat game probably, but in VR you can really appreciate the smaller stuff like that. We see the attacking team hack the access point, and we hear a small bleeping noise that indicates to the attacking team that the laptop location is now visible, and you can see it through the walls, this blue icon. This guy really creeps along here. He's playing it smart, he's playing it safe, using the oil drums as cover. There's some gunfire starts to break out here, and it's here that we really get to appreciate the audio work that's gone into the game. There was audio in the official trailer, but there was also loud music playing and whatnot. Here we get a clear listen to the sound effects, and I must say those guns are sounding nice and beefy, more on the Battlefield side of the spectrum compared to COD. I think so anyway, which is great in my opinion. As he engages further with the enemies, we see that their names fade in and out over their heads, so it seems like you kind of have to maintain a visual on them to keep seeing their name, and if they were to turn a corner or whatever, you'd lose track of them pretty easily, I think. I love this part here where he just comes out of cover and a grenade of some kind just goes flying right over his head. Again, one of those things that are completely pedestrian in a flat game, but in VR, that shit will get your nips hard enough to cut glass. Here we get to see our boy score himself a juicy grenade kill that was just perfectly thrown. We cut to another perspective of this other dude just slaughtering the enemy team, and then a trophy pops. You know the game is nearly ready when the trophies pop. Then the last enemy who was still alive dies, and boom, round over. It must be said it was a very quick round too, but it just seemed like the attacking team kicked ass here. That's exactly why you need to play smart in this game. If you don't, if you're just going to go running and gunning, you'll die and the enemy team will outplay you. As we load back to the menu, we get to see the people of First Contact sneaking in a cheeky hint. The absolute madmen and mad women. Now the only thing that would make this hint better would be if they added 5 verys instead of just 1 very. Step up your game, Adam Orth and Hess Barber, please. Anyway, we get to see the end of match scoreboard here for the first time. The guy ranks up to level 2, but it's nothing you haven't seen before, though it seems the attackers won that round with just 3 players compared to the enemy team having 4. The defending team have surely shamed their families with such a performance. Skipping ahead to this next round, we see the next hint tells us that shotguns are effective at short and close range combat. That's not really a hint unless you've never played a game before in your life. So this time they are on the defending team, and notice the laptop placement. It's in a different place than it was in the last round, even though it's the same map. So there is an element of randomness to it that should keep things fresh. We see a mine or C4 trap being set here. It works very similar to how grenades work, though it appears you need the ball at the end here to turn green before you can place it. You can't just stick it willy-nilly anywhere without limits. Now this part here is actually very interesting also, because this is the first time we get to see the game being controlled with a DualShock 4 controller. Now notice how she has to move the controller downwards to aim the trap on the ground. I believe then the enemy team hacks the access point, so now they know where the laptop is, and a gunfight ensues. Here we see that she has to slightly raise the DualShock 4 to aim the weapon, but not as high as I would have expected. The DualShock 4 looks perfectly viable as an option here based on this, to me anyway. A shootout ensues here for a good few seconds. This area of the map really seems to be the middle ground, kind of like the melting pot. You can expect a lot of conflict to happen in this particular area on this particular map. I wanted to take a closer look at this kill here because it seemed like she got in quite a few hits before the enemy went down, and now I could be wrong, but it looks like a good few of those hits were actually headshots. So it looks like headshots insta-kills may not be a thing, at least not with the weapon she is using. Now let me know your feelings on that in the comments. I suspect it might be a point of contention for some of you. And then once again, this team wins. It was probably agreed upon to let them win, seeing as we were watching that team. Maybe even the enemy team were first contact, I don't know. So maybe a more competitive enemy team would make the match last longer. But those 2 rounds were fairly quick. Not that that's a bad thing. It's nice to just hop on for a few rounds sometimes and not have to dedicate, you know, a few hours or whatever. And we see a gold trophy pop here. Now who knows what for, but more interestingly here is a new hint in the loading screen that gives us a new skill. It's called the light speed skill, and it lets you increase your reload speed. And then right near the end here we see yet another skill in the main menu. This one is called quick fix and lets you revive your teammates faster. It seems to belong to the German operator that we saw earlier in the selection screen. A useful one, no doubt. Overall, I'm really liking these unique character perks. They all seem like fairly small things, you know, nice to have, but nothing really overpowering, I don't think. Of course, the unlockable skills may be more potent. We'll wait and see on that one. So we get a better look here at what it's like to have your whole squad beside you in the menu. This time all their weapons are displaying correctly and they aren't freaking out with their arms. It's all looking, you know, nice. It's a nice way to see what operators and gear your team is picking, and allows you to maybe tactically select your loadouts to complement that. And then the firewall segment of this stream ends. So my closing thoughts: I thought the game still looks great. Their own technical issues aside, it seemed to go smoothly. It looked tense, it looked fun. The sound design sounds really well done. I like the loadout area, the way that's done. The new perks we learned about seem fair, you know, not unbalanced. The DualShock 4 actually does look like it can hold its own against the aim controller. I think a lot of people might be pleased to see that. I think, maybe I could be wrong, let me know. The maps look great, the visuals are very impressive. For a VR game, there's some really nice details. Just give me this game already. So those are my thoughts. But I want to know your thoughts. Maybe you weren't as happy with what we saw as I was. Maybe I missed stuff that you want to talk about. Either way, put it in the comments and I'll reply, and others will too, I'm sure. I found out about the official Firewall Zero Hour PlayStation community too. So hop onto your PS4s, go to the communities tab and search for Firewall. There's only like 40 people in there so far. Not enough people know about it. So join, make friends, get squads organized. It'll be a great place to find people to play this game with. I put a comment in there myself, so look for us and add me on PSN that way. It'll be super quick and super easy. Okay, so that's it for this video, lads and ladies. If you liked it, if you like what I'm doing on my channel, then please consider helping me out with the usual shite. This video, you know, takes a bit of effort. Thank you very much for watching. Less than 40 days away. Get moist. I'll see you in the next one.